Hi, you just reached the Relationship Podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Ritt. And last time we talked about Christmas presents. And today we're going to talk about friendships and social media. And today we have a guest, one of my close friends, Natalie. Okay, so you wanted to talk about friendships and social media, as well as ways we maintain our friendships. So do you want to talk about how we maintain our friendship during quarantine?
Yeah, sure. All right, so specifically in my friendship, it's been a lot about communication and just making sure you reach out to the person and make sure that they know that you care about them and you want them to because one of the things we struggle with is not seeing each other. I think a lot of people are now realizing how important the physical aspect of it is that you physically see the person, but I think it was hard for a lot of people because they weren't able to do that. It's kind of like you had a relationship with your phone, right? So I think that was really hard for a lot of people in retrospect. Specifically with mine, I know my friends, we had some rough parts during the quarantine, but we got through them because we communicated and we're like, hey, this is just quarantine is not going to be forever. And I think that you just see that light at the end of the tunnel, definitely when it comes to friendships during quarantine.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I loved how you brought up the phone relationship because I feel like that put more stress on people since they're more on their phone, since that is the only way to honestly communicate with people nowadays, just due to quarantine and everything. And so people had to learn what is a good time frame to even be on your phone and what apps should even be open or should you be distracted, have something else open, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think also a lot of people are always stressed about when to talk to people. And I do think, I'm a firm believer in if you just ask somebody how their day is, they can't be like, oh my God, she's annoying, right?
Yeah.
We're all so concerned about, oh my God, am I annoying this person? Am I talking to them too much? If you ask how their day is, that's flattering. I don't know about anyone else, but I would not say oh my God, this person's so annoying because they ask how my day is every day. No, that's showing you care. And that's the bottom line. I think people read too much into that.
Yeah.
And just showing you care is just so significant. Great in this time because that's all we need really. We need companionship during this time because you feel alone, and only way you don't is just to reach out to people, and it's that simple.
Yeah, I agree with that. And with the person sending out the text, I feel like they're being a burden just because they don't quite know what's going on to the receiver's life. But the receiver sees it as a different point of view. They see it as a positive thing. They just see it as, oh, hey, I'm talking to this person. That's great. That's sweet. And they don't see it as how the giver is point of view has. And I feel like that has a big aspect on today's society is that there's two different point of views, and we're not expressing that to the other party, and that's why relationships are struggling nowadays.
And I do there's something to be said people are going to be busy and and I feel especially on the social media thing, I know we want to bring that up too, people are so hung up on the amount of hours people leave us undelivered or leave us unread or don't say a certain thing. I think it's because we have expectations and we have ways we act and talk to people and we expect that back from people, but you can't. It's probably another reason why people are struggling because you have your own set of expectations and you have your own ways of doing things and you automatically assume someone else is going to do the same thing. And that's when you're let down, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's going to do a one-word answer, doesn't mean they're automatically annoyed. We automatically are, wired to think that way. Mm-hmm. For some people, at least in my experience, I've done that, and other people have done it too.
Yeah.
I think it's so in a way, social media has been a blessing because that is the only way we've really been able to reach people, depending on the circumstances and the state and everything. But also it's kind of, it's kind of making and breaking relationships right now because we're so hung up on the technology aspect of it that we don't consider that it's the only way that we can communicate right now, so we can't take it for granted and let it ruin us, because then we'll just get away from it. But then we find ourselves like, oh my God, I'm not talking to this person because I'm letting this technology get in the way. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And another thing with reading what somebody says, you don't hear it in their tone of voice. And so you hear it how your mind reads it. And I feel like that has a big influence on how people take in messages, because they're thinking it one way while the person is trying to say that the total opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's another reason why like the physical thing is so important, because we get to see reactions in real time.
Yeah.
I think, we just find more peace in what we say to people when we physically see them. That's why also a lot of people are saying things that they would never say to people in person. So it's like the physical aspect of, it's been taken away from us, you know what I mean? And we've now realized how important it is to us once it's gone for like a year,
Yeah. Another thing with that physical aspect, when you're in person, you get a response right away. And that's how I think when somebody's left undelivered or they're not responding as quick as you think they are, you feel that you have done something wrong, just because in person you're used to a quick response, or you could see how the person's reacting to your comment. And I feel that physical face-to-face conversations are important, and during these times it's not as easy to do it, and that's why people are saying what they're saying, because they don't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm. I think like basically, with my friends, and I've also told myself this, like there's never a wrong time to be kind to someone. If you want to reach out and you want to say, hey, I thought of you today, or something, like, if you want to, a lot of people send memes or whatever, that's always fun. Like, if you just want to say, hey, how was your day? Like, there's no harm in that. I don't think anybody's ever going to say to you, like, okay, you're rude for reaching out to me today. No, like, there's never a wrong time to reach out to someone and make them feel good and make them say, I want to know how your day was. I want to just share this meme with you because I thought it was funny. Like, there's no harm in that. If you're going to say like, hey, you did this and I don't like, okay, that's different. But like, if you're going to possibly make their mood better, because you have no idea what's going on in their life too.
Yeah.
So also give them some grace when they leave you undelivered for 15 hours. You know what I mean? Like, you have to give them, fully know them, but I doubt anybody like fully knows everybody's schedule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I never feel bad for reaching out to someone, because it's not, even if they're leaving me undelivered, I don't care. The fact that I reached out to them and was like, oh, I thought of you with this meme because it's funny, or like, how was your, like, I'm not feeling, when they respond to me, they respond to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are going to say, oh, they're going to step all over you. I don't care. I really don't, because like, I don't care if I reach out. Like, I know there's a lot of debate on who reaches out first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about that either. Like, I'm gonna reach out if I want to. I don't care if people. I'd rather just be a good person, and don't sink to that person's level if they never reach out, I guess. I mean, they're always like, oh, if it's a 2-person game, I get that. But like, at a point, you gotta realize, like, you don't want to play their game, because then you're gonna develop the same habit to do to other people. You don't want that,
Yeah, I do. And I'm gonna be honest, I fall into that trap, I guess, of feel like I'm annoying just because I'm the one who's always texting first. But you just brought it to my mind that you remind me that it doesn't honestly matter, because what truly matters is that you're having a communication with that person, and it doesn't matter who starts it.
Exactly. And like, I've fallen so many times. That's the only reason I'm saying it, because otherwise like, at a point, like the beginning of quarantine, that's all I would ever think about. Like, oh my God, like when, like I'd set days, like I'd be like, okay, I'm going to give them a 1-day break and then go back into it. I'm like, Natalie, it's like, so I was really hung up on that. But I think, you realize like you're trying to maintain a friendship with someone.
Yeah.
And this is hard. Okay. Like last year sucked. Okay. There's positives you could find in it, but like relationship wise, it was probably really tough for a lot of people. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you got to be gentle with yourself and with the other person, because you know what? Also, you don't have to talk every day to maintain a friendship. I've also realized that.
Yeah.
What really is a testament to your friendship is when you fight or when you don't talk for a while. I know neither of them are pleasant. Like that's not ideal, but I mean, it's really a good testament because if you're always talking, you're never gonna know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, just overall, just be gentle. You know what I mean? And be gentle in general. Like you never know what's going on in someone's life, especially when you're on those phones. Okay, like you're not physically seeing this person every day, so you have no idea what's going on. They could be hiding stuff from you, just that are too personal and they don't want to share. You know.
I get that, and when we did have school in person and you did see people every day and you talk to them every day, I feel like sometimes they would hide more just because they want to maintain the relationship and they think it has to be a certain standard. But I feel like during quarantine, some people have been more opened up just because you don't talk to them every day, and so therefore they feel like they could be more themselves. And yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think, even when it comes to just talking online, you feel like you can hold pretty much nothing back because it's, technology. But like, I think going off of what you said about the hiding stuff, like I think people also don't want to be a burden. I think it all comes back to being a burden in a sense.
It does.
We never want the other person to be like, oh my God, this person is just so high maintenance or such a handful to be friends with. We don't want that. And that's for anybody. Like, I don't feel that anybody wants anyone to feel that way. But like, in reality, it's never that way. You know what I mean? Like, you signed up to be a friend. What do you think you're gonna just never talk to? Like, this is your job as a friend. Like, it shouldn't be like 24/7 just helping them out all the time. You have a life too, but you need to be there for them. So whatever that entails, you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
if you made that commitment to them, you know what I mean?
Another thing with that burden aspect, I feel like that has a big contribution just because I feel like at one point everyone has felt like they were a burden to someone. And
Right.
by having that aspect, you start to feel that in other places. Because if you never felt it, you're not going to start feeling it out of nowhere. And by having that, I feel like people are not being themselves sometimes just because they feel like a burden. They feel like they have to hold back. And due to that, they're not being their real selves. And
I think really especially during the quarantine, this was definitely an opportunity for everyone just to sit and feel everything. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think our lives are so fast paced. You know what I mean? That when just for me, if I did one thing wrong or I said one thing to a friend, I'd overthink it for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was kind of a blessing because I feel that I'm not a new person, but I kind of feel I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about my friendships and how I'm going to maintain them in the future. When I go back to school and see all these people again, it's going to be a lot different. I see that personal growth in me, but also it wasn't the best to just be able to sit there and swim in that,
Yeah.
It's hard because you realize how many emotions, you actually experience and, you never have time to actually sit down and feel those and internalize those because usually you're off to band practice, you're off to sports practice, you're off to school, you're doing homework, you're seeing, it's so paced now. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, it definitely did, and I'm guilty of bottling up emotions, especially when I have a busy schedule because I'm just I don't have time to deal with this. I have to move on to my next task because it's due tomorrow or it's due whenever. But every day I feel like people should just sit somewhere by themselves for for as long as they want and just think about their day and every emotion they experience and if they need to hold on to that emotion or if they just need to let it go.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think with sitting with myself, I was able to better myself for my friends and my family and all the people who are in my life, because I was allowed to sit there, I was like, okay, how could I be better? I even asked my friends sometimes, when we had a couple rough patches, I'd occasionally ask okay, how am I doing? That's not really what I was asking. It's more, how can I grow and be a better person? Because now this is the best time to think about that. Because we're probably never gonna get this opportunity again. I'm not saying opportunity was not a great year, but looking for the positives, I see that as a positive.
I do as well, because
Sorry.
having time to reflect is very key, especially onto yourself. Like, we've been told in school to reflect on our papers and reflect on our aspect in school, but I personally never really took it as a strong point until during quarantine, when I was able to honestly do it for real and on my own terms. You realize how important it is to see where you are in your mental stage, and where do you want to grow in your life is very key to understand.
I definitely see, like, once you become more self-aware, like, you kind of are understanding how, like, before quarantine, I was barely, like, I've become a lot more self-aware of my actions, my emotions, and how that correlates to other people in my life.
Yeah.
The emotions you have can spill into other people's lives too. So now you're kind of recognizing this is what this is what I'm saying, is I'm recognizing how that's probably going to affect them. I think that's just very significant. I think, like, it's very, like, mature. I think I can probably, a lot of people can say that. In a way, you become emotionally mature and kind of understood, like, okay, this is how it's going to affect my friends. Before, I'd send a text and I wouldn't think it would mean anything. But now, like, it's kind of good that I'm like, okay, so, when I'm comforting a friend, like, now I really understand what it means to be, like, comforting a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you become aware, you actually feel their emotions with them. I think I was always kind of an empathetic person, but I think now I've really understood it. Like, you've kind of really internalize it like them, and you can really help them out.
And that's very key to, like, understand empathy, like, not just understand what they're going through, but also understand how it feels towards that person. Because if you understand how the other person is feeling, I feel like you could help them more of a way, because you know how to react with them. You know if it's a big situation or if it's just, like, in the moment type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think another good thing was, we were all kind of vulnerable. While it is, there's good and bad to that, but I feel like we kind of saw a really raw side of each other, especially in my friendships, at least. I've seen different sides of my friends, and they've seen different sides of me that they've never born. It's kind of good and bad at the same time, but I think them seeing that is a good thing, because now they, have seen those sides and can understand how to react in those sides. The same for me. Like, I've seen it with them, and now I know how to react whenever it happens again. Because like, it unleashed in a sense, it's gonna come back at some point. And again, it's not always positive. It's and it's not always negative, but it's good to have exposure to those sides.
Yeah. And honestly, with having those types of relationships and having a friendship like that, I feel like it prepares you more for the real world, because it displays a true aspect and not just it always being positive or always being negative. So, yeah.
And I think, again, like, going back to what I was saying, like, it's a real testament. Your friendship is really put to the test when you have fights and you have disagreements and you have disputes. You know what I mean? And again, they're not positive, but you know what? Like, maintaining a friendship or relationship is not easy.
That's true.
And it was really tested this year. It's not easy, and now a lot of us see it. And like, it doesn't have to be like a huge fight. Like, just having a little period of disagreement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy. It takes both of them. It cannot just be one person working. You know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way street. It's like a machine. It needs both things.
Yeah, and I think a true relationship, as you were saying, it's gonna come with some fights and disagreements, because everyone's different, and that's what makes us so amazing. And so there are gonna be disagreements, and by knowing that there are disagreements and the relationship is still together, I feel like disagreements make the relationship stronger just because you see the other person's input and how they react in a different scenario that you don't usually see day to day.
Right. And I started noticing, like, I've seen, like, even with talking to people around me and, like, taking a break from people is okay to do.
Yeah.
I think we all see that as, like, a detrimental thing, too. I don't know, maybe not everyone, but, like, the thought of not talking to this person for, like, a couple weeks is, like, kind of hurts our soul, But in a way, I think, it can be good at times. I recently had that with someone in my life, and it really helped, to be honest. Things were getting kind of dry and we weren't really talking about much. And then, we took time away and we came back and it was really strong. And it showed me that, like, we don't need to be talking every day. Sometimes you feel like I have to talk to this person every day. You don't want it to become a chore.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're worrying about it. Talking to a person you care about is not a chore. It shouldn't be. If it becomes that way, there's an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hung up on, I gotta text this person, and it doesn't even matter what it is. Text that person when you want to text that person.
Yeah.
You just say, how are you? You can send them a meme. That's what I've been doing a lot. Because it's funny, or you can just say, like, ask them, like, if you don't even have to have a purpose, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, again, there's no harm in showing somebody you care about them, ever. And that's the thing I live by forever. Like, there's never, even if at the end of the day, like, you have second thoughts of being annoying. But you know what? I'd rather have that than be, lacking in that department, lacking and not reaching out to them. Because then we're going two-sided relationship here. You're not pulling your own weight. I'd rather be pulling my own weight and maybe a little bit of the other person's than not pulling my weight at all.
Yeah. And another thing with not acting on your decision. So if you are thinking about texting someone or reaching out and you don't do it, you'll be thinking about more of, like, what if I did? What would happen? Instead of knowing the result and being like, okay, I did that today. I feel great of just doing that. And
fear is, like, it's one of the worst. It's like the best and, like, worst thing that could ever. Fear has held everyone back from something, and it could have been life-changing. Okay, like, it's crazy. And I think, that goes with anything, even, like, with a huge job or something, just anything. Like, it's anything from small to big. Like, it's a huge factor, but you know what? Like, you got to outweigh it, Like, you got to think, okay, I'm kind of scared because I don't want this person to think I'm annoying just because I say hi to them. But what if that made their day? Because, again, you have no idea what's going on, right?
Very
so
true.
You hi to them, are you sending them that meme? Are you sending them, how are you? Or, like, that could make their days. You have no idea what's going on, and you got to remember, oh my God, recognize that. Because it's, and again, I'm going to say it a million times, but there's nothing wrong with being kind to someone. There's nothing, there's never a set time for that. And no one's ever going to say to you, don't do that. Yeah. Like, there's never a designated time to be kind. You are kind on your own terms. And, like, I think just people think way too much about when to text this person, what to tell them, but just say whatever you want. Like, it's not going to be, there's no time. Like, when you made a friend, they never gave you a timetable or days of the week that they're available to talk to you, right?
Yeah, it's not a job.
You can only text me on Tuesday at 4 p.m. They never did that, right? But that's what we internalize sometimes. We're like, okay, I'm going to set a time. You don't need to set a time. Whenever you think about them, whenever you find a meme on the internet, whenever you feel like talking to them, talk to them. Yeah, they probably won't respond first. Give yourself some time. Give them time because they have a life outside of you. So don't think, oh my God, just because I texted them, they have to automatically reply. No, you have a life, they have a life. That has to be established first. But, like, I feel like this time factor is just, like, ruining friendships and relationships in a way because And again, it's because we're in quarantine. Like any other time, we get an immediate reaction, right? Because we're talking to the person. But being on a phone, people are feeling like I'm in a relationship with my phone because I'm constantly looking at it to make sure this person texts me back. They have a life, right? Mm-hmm. And there are instances where maybe they are purposely ignoring you. I've seen it, right?
Yeah.
But, and those type of people you don't need in your life, okay? Yeah. If there's a legit reason why they're not answering you, that's different. But if they're purposely ignoring you, that's negative, right? Mm-hmm. We don't need that energy. Go find someone who's gonna not do that, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So is that all that you want to talk about today?
I think so. I feel like I'm literally like yelling. It's fun.
No, you're not. You honestly brought up some key topics, and I love that.
I just want to close out by saying, like, I'm going to say it like a million times. I'm saying, like, always, like, whenever you're in between something, if you're in between saying, I'm fearful because I feel like I'm going to annoy this person. But if you're going to text that person saying, hi, how are you? How was your day? Always choose, hi, how was your day? Always choose check in. Like, that is showing you care, and that's just kind. And that's something maybe that person is lacking from other people. Again, you don't know. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you're the only person reaching out to them often, they're going to remember that. Yeah. Okay? Like, even small things like that, they remember. You know what I mean? So, that hi, how are you is more significant than you think. And don't let that fear hold you back.
Yeah.
And
I feel like another thing is, with social media, if you don't even know the person but you see their post, even if you ask them how's their day, they may not respond to you, but if they do see it, they'll think about it, and they're just like, this person doesn't know me, but yet they're asking my day. That also has a different aspect, because especially nowadays, we don't really talk to people who are new as often as we did when we were more able to be out in the world.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you don't have to know these people.
Yeah.
To be nice towards them and, have this compassion for people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just the fact of making someone's day is something that should be motivating. Yeah. I get it. Like, it's not, everybody's different. That's not like something that I would do is not something somebody else would do, right?
Yeah.
There are different personalities. People feel differently, and everyone has their own opinions, and that is fine. That is something that should be. It should be, because everybody should have their own opinions. They're entitled, But I think whenever you have an opportunity to be kind, you take it. You run with it. You never pass it up, because there's no harm in it. The worst that can happen to someone is they don't take the kindness, but that doesn't mean it was something. That doesn't mean it was wrong on your part.
Yeah.
It's always right to do something kind. It's never wrong. Just because the person doesn't take the kindness and react to it or use it, it doesn't mean you were wrong to do it in the first place.
Correct. And I feel like that's a key point which people also don't see right away because they're so focused on a type of aspect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Congratulations! You have just reached the end of this episode of the Relationship Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Olivia Ritt. And today we were glad to have my friend Natalie join us. By the way, this podcast has an account at Instagram at @the.relationship podcast. And be sure to follow this YouTube channel. See you guys all next time. Bye, y'all.